Hi guys, welcome to a new episode of AB in the Films. Guys, the moment has finally come. It is the time when I'm going to tell you what my favorite television shows are. And I know a lot of my friends have been waiting for this episode for about a year. Let me go into a little bit of history before I start this list. It was the Emmys night of last year, and I said that I was going to do a list of my favorite television shows because I already did a list of my favorite movies, I think 2 years ago, something like that. And I figured, let me talk about my television shows. Because television basically is a film. It's like a short version of a movie. Each episode is like a movie, and you put all the episodes together, it's like one really long film. So, yeah. So I guess television shows would count as talking about it. Seeing how a show can evolve and, you know, different episodes that really you hold on to because you really like them and stuff, whether you're a kid or an adult. So I figured, yeah, let me talk about them. There are a lot of TV shows I've liked over the years, so I had to narrow it down to like my favorite shows of all time, basically. So you can call this, I'm going to call this my favorite TV shows, I think. Not of all time, because there are a lot of other shows I do like of all time, but the list was just too long. I had to narrow it down to these. I think there's like 17 in here, I think. Yeah, it's 17. So yeah, I was going to do this on Emmy Awards night this year, but I missed the Emmy Awards. Yeah, I was really looking forward to it. I missed it. I didn't see one ad for it. I didn't see anything written about it on Facebook ahead of time. I didn't even know who was the host. I didn't see anything. I went to bed Sunday evening. I woke up Monday morning, and there were all these clips on the internet of stuff, highlights that happened at the Emmys. And I'm like, what the hell is this? So, yeah, I didn't see anything. I had no idea. And aren't the Emmys usually the weekend right before the new seasons begin? So, like, the third week in September, not in August? I don't know. So, anyway, you guys want to hear the list. All right, here we go, because I've been stalling too much. And, yeah, so here we go. Now, one more thing before I start this list. I know you guys want me to get to it. Just to let you guys know, you're going to see a lot of sitcoms in this list, and say what you want about the sitcom, like, oh, it's dead, or it's not funny, or, you know, laugh track or no laugh track, it still isn't funny. These are the shows that I love, laugh track or no laugh track. They're still funny, they're still hilarious. Yeah, we'll get to that little train wreck eventually. Number 17. The Brady Bunch. I saw this show for the first time when my dad was watching it one night. I came into the room one night, I was a little 5-year-old kid, and he was watching this show that had these 6 kids with their parents and a housekeeper and a dog. And from the first episode I watched, I just loved this show. Every time it came on, I had to watch it. It was on Nick at Night in those days, in the late 90s, I believe. Yeah, like 97, 98, around that time. And I would watch it all the time. It would come on every night in the summertime at 8 o'clock, always watch it. And my dad would watch it with me too. And the episodes that really stick out to me when I watched this show are basically the entire first season. The first season, the second season, and I think maybe even the third season, because I watched a lot of the episodes. Because when I was growing up, most of the episodes I watched were done in the early years, not the later years, like when the kids aged. Those episodes I really didn't watch. I watched it when they were like a lot really young. What's fascinating about this show is that even now, almost 20 years after I saw this show for the first time, I'm still learning more stuff about it. I actually found out that Maureen McCormick, who played Marcia Brady on the show, she released a book about her personal life, about her being on the Brady Bunch and, you know, everything she did after that and how it was hard to find work and everything and her experience doing the show. My dad was reading her book and he was telling me all this stuff that she did, and Barry Williams had a book, and a lot of people from the show had a book and everything. And I'm watching all these documentaries, and I'm watching Sherwood Schwartz, the creator, talk about how he made the show, and how Robert Reed, who played the father, didn't want to do the show. He was a real Shakespearean actor. He didn't want to do this, you know, comedy. You know, because he looked upon it as, like, really lowbrow humor. He didn't think it was that funny at all. He was under contract. He had to do it. The thing that I love about this show a lot is that even now, even as I'm an adult, I know a lot of these episodes would not hold up. Because if you watch The Brady Bunch... Now, here's the thing. This show ran from 69 to 74. Okay, that was a really turbulent period in American history. None of that, of what was going on in the real wider world, is expressed in this show. None of it. You don't hear anything about the war. You don't hear anything about Vietnam. Nothing about Nixon. Nothing about LBJ. About all the assassinations. You know, Robert Kennedy, Dr. King Jr. You don't hear any of that. It's these kids growing up in a suburban neighborhood. That's it. That's what it is. And granted, a lot of these, especially in the late 60s when this show first premiered, a lot of the critics didn't like this show. But then again, they didn't like Gilligan's Island either, and that's a funny show. They didn't like this show because they felt it was too predictable. They felt that a situation as big as the situations that they talk about in the show wouldn't be solved in a half hour. It's not real. It's ridiculous. But adults, it wasn't for the adults. It was for the children. The kids watched this show, and they could relate to it because it was all about the 6 kids in the show. Like you guys know, Marcia, Jan, Cindy, Greg, Peter, and Bobby. It was all about them. Like, you barely see any episodes about the parents or about Alice, the housekeeper. I mean, like, they have their episodes here and there, but it's mostly about at least one of the kids. And those episodes are always my favorite. The episodes that really stand out to me, I didn't really say much about that. The episodes that stand out to me are the one where Marcia gets her braces. That one I remember watching a lot as a kid. The one where Marcia has her slumber party. That one, like, I must have watched that one over and over again. My dad eventually ended up taping it off the television, and I think I ruined the tape. I just love that episode. The one where Greg makes this video for his homework for his class, and his family has dressed up like the Pilgrims. I remember that one. That one was great. The one when they get Davy Jones is great. I love that one. That one's the best. I like... there's a lot of really good episodes, and there's a lot of good gags in this show, too. And yeah, it's a laugh track. So what? I mean, like, it's not... Here's the thing. It's not laugh out loud funny. It's a part of my childhood. That's why I love it so much. I watched it as a kid. I loved it then. I watch it now. I still love it. It takes me back to those memories. It's a really good family show. There's no guns in it. There's no violent talk in it. There's no foul language in it. This is a great show to watch with your family. This is like a perfect family sitcom. Is it laugh out loud funny? No, but I don't think it's supposed to be. And it teaches kids good lessons, and that's definitely a reason to keep it on this list. Next one. Till Death. Alright, now this is a show... I can't say I love the entire series from beginning to end, but I do like the show for the first 2 years. And the reason is because, well, I really did like this show. I'll never forget the first time I saw it, okay? The first time I saw this show, first of all, if you don't know what the show's about, this was a sitcom that was on Fox. It ran for 4 years. The first 2 years are the funniest, but we'll get into that in a second. It's about a married couple. It's kind of like The Honeymooners, if you think about it. It's well, not really, but it's like old marriage versus new marriage. That's what it is. Brad Garrett is married to Jolie Fisher, and they've been married for 20 years, and then next door, Eddie K. Thomas and Kat Foster are newlyweds, and they move in next door. So it's like old marriage versus new marriage. Okay, that could be a funny idea. All right. What they do with it is so funny. Every time it's hilarious in seasons 1 and 2. I will never forget the first time I was betrayed by this show. And especially the fans who did like this show, okay? I was a sophomore in high school. It was the fall of 2008, and I was so excited to go home that night and to watch the season premiere of Till Death. I was so excited to watch the third season premiere. I go home, I do my homework, half of it, I wasn't a good student. I turn on the TV, I watch it. And I found out that 2 of the stars left the show. Well, why? And I never understood why. I never knew why. I still, sometimes, once in a while, I'll search the internet and I'll think about, like, that show. Like, oh, that show, Till Death, I like that show. Like, hang on. I actually went out and bought, because this is all you can buy, the first 2 seasons of Till Death. And it's a funny show. It's great. I guess they won't release seasons 3 and 4 because nobody watched seasons 3 and 4 because they weren't that funny. Well, I take it back. Season 3 maybe had 1 good episode. That was it. And I'll get to that in a sec. But what I really liked about this show was the way Brad Garrett acted off Joely Fisher and Eddie K. Thomas. And Kath. Well, it's the way Brad Garrett acted off everybody in the show. But I truly, honestly believe what killed this show was not the fact that the 2 stars left. It was the fact that the writer's strike happened during the second season, 07 to 08. When the writer's strike was over, the show came back. And they got J.B. Smoove on the show as Kenny. And he was a funny addition to the cast. He was a funny character. I liked him in the show. I thought he was funny. But the show kind of dwindled away even in the second half of season 2 after that writer's strike. And it kind of slowly didn't make me laugh as hard as it used to. It still made me laugh, but it wasn't as funny as it used to be. You know what I mean? And I honestly believe the writer's strike is what killed that show. If this show had happened maybe a year before the writer's strike, it would have been a lot funnier. It probably wouldn't have happened because I think Brad Garrett was still doing Everybody Loves Raymond at that point. He was doing like the last season of Raymond. But it was still really funny. One of the episodes I love, the first time I ever saw this show, I'll tell you what episode, the first episode I ever saw of this show was, and I immediately was hooked. It was the episode called The Coffee Maker, and it's in the first season. And in this episode, Joy, who is Joely Fisher, and her husband, Brad Garrett, who is Eddie, they get a cappuccino maker. And I'm just going to call them by their real names. Joely Fisher wants Brad Garrett to keep making her cappuccinos because she doesn't feel like doing it, and she doesn't want to learn how to work the coffee maker because she doesn't want to do it. She wants him to do it because she's too lazy, I guess. And finally, Brad Garrett's at a breaking point, and he says, you know what? I'm going to show you how to do it, okay? And there's this whole scene where he's explaining to her how to do it. And he goes, all right, so you turn the water on, you do this. And she goes, okay, I'm lost. And he goes, you're lost? Where did I lose you? And she goes, I don't know, the water is... Oh, okay, hold on a second. You take the water, you put it in the tank. You do speak English, do you? And she goes, yeah, I'm just a little confused. And he said, okay, let me put this in your terms. Pretend the tank is your stomach and the water is Merlot. And she goes, okay, now I get it. And they just keep going on. And finally he says, okay, you close the lid. And there's like 2 minutes later and she's like staring at him and he goes, where are you, Joy? Close the lid. No, what? We're way past the lid. The lid is closed. But what made me literally laugh, I was a little 14-year-old kid, what made me fall out of my chair laughing is when he goes, okay, it's really easy. It's water, prime, coffee, tap, twist, button. WPCTTB. Whoopasitaba. You got it? Whoopasitaba. And he's trying to get her to remember it, and she just doesn't want to remember it. And he's like, I know your game, woman. Okay, you refuse to do this because you don't want to have the skill because you don't want to do it. So, you're going to repeat after me, okay? And she just can't get it, and it's just so funny. And in every episode of the first 2 seasons, they always have a fight like that, and it's just so funny. It's the little jokes like that, and it's Brad Garrett doing this, so it's beyond hilarious. I love this show. I love the first 2 seasons. The last 2 seasons are not funny at all. The jokes are lame. They fall flat. See, it wasn't funny after Eddie K. Thomas and Kat Foster, the newly married couple, left. When they left the show, it was just Brad Garrett and Jolie Fisher acting off each other. And when they did have a fight, it was funny, but it wasn't enough to save a whole episode. And imagine 24 of these episodes couldn't save an entire season. So it just wasn't. The 3rd and 4th season, don't watch it. I think you can get access to it on like iTunes or something, or Amazon Instant Video or something like that. But don't watch it. The first 2 seasons are the best. You can buy them on DVD. I sure did.